Hi, I'm Kevin Jeter, and welcome to this week's edition of the Nation's Capital Sports Show, where it's most definitely on. We have Afshin Banab, Stephen Mangas, and Vincent Charles. Gentlemen, let's get started talking about what we enjoy talking about the best and the most, and that is sports here in the DMV. And the reason why I have this big smile on my face is because the Washington Redskins have started off the 2014 training camp season, baby. Tell us more about that, Vincent.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or actually, Stephen.
Yeah, they are just the first few days into training camp now, and the Redskins, they started putting on the pads, so you've got all the early goings and all the optimism in the world in the first few days of training camp.
That's right.
Every player is talking, we've got swagger, we're here, we're ready, happy to get the pads back on, and it's fun to watch and great to listen to their press conferences and everything and hear what they've got to say about where they think the team's going to go and the first taste of the new head coach Jay Gruden as well.
That's right. Hope springs eternal there, Afshin. And Robert Griffin III is actually saying what he's supposed to say.
Exactly. He's saying what he's supposed to say. Jay Gruden is going to say what he has to say to help RG3 improve his game. And like Stephen said, they have a lot of swagger, but the guy who didn't have at least individual swagger is Brandon Jenkins, and they already released him, the 5th-round draft pick from 2013. One of the earliest cuts you'll see in NFL history. After a couple of days of training camp, he's already been released. But Jay Gruden has got the team going on the right track, and I think he's not going to hold anything back. When he feels like something's going wrong, he's going to say it. He's going to let that player, no matter who it is, know what the problem is and to fix it right away.
That's right. And Jay Gruden, as the saying goes, he's not kidding around. He's getting right to the brass tacks of the matter, Vincent.
Yes, it's interesting how Gruden put the hammer down so quickly. A lot of things interest me, particularly the running back competition. You have Roy Halou, Evan Royster in there after Alfred Morris, and you got a couple of young rookies there, and that's going to be interesting. Also, there seems to be quite a number of tight ends this year. The Redskins are going to have to make a decision.
That's right. Well, it's nice when you have that competition going on, Afshin.
Yeah, Jay Gruden wouldn't want it any other way. No coach would want it any other way. He'd want to have 5 really good wide receivers vying for 3 spots. He'd want to have 4 or 5 good tight ends vying for 2 starting positions. Same with the running backs. Lake Seastrunk, one of those young running backs you were just talking about, Vincent. That's RG3's boy out of Baylor.
Right.
And he's going to be in the mix of things as well. So Jay Gruden and his staff will have their work cut out for them when it comes to who are they going to keep on the team and who they may have to release.
It's interesting for veteran Santana Moss, Steve, because he's going to have to fight for his position as well. And from all indications, he says that he's up for the challenge.
Yeah, he's going to have to fight, and Jay spoke in his press conference about him. He's happy to have Santana around with the Redskins, but still not quite sure how he's going to fit in yet, how many reps he'll be getting. But, of course, I think for the most part we'll probably see him in that slot position. But he's really important for the team, the veteran leadership, and then he does the other things well, not just catching the ball. He's a great blocker from the receiver position, which is something that gets talked about a little bit less, but he does his things right.
Yeah, from the looks of it, we see the same defense, and that's a good thing. But what significant changes do you see that may be forthcoming defensively, Afshin?
Well, Kevin, the biggest one is at the safety position. There's 2 big moves at the safety position. One is they got back Ryan Clark, who was here originally for this team. Then they let him go back in, I want to say, 2006 or 7, maybe. Yep. Stephen, right? I think. Yeah. And then he went up to Pittsburgh, won himself a Super Bowl there. A lot of fans in this area didn't want to see Ryan Clark leave. Now he's back. He's the old wily veteran who I think can help out. And the other problem is Tenard Jackson. He had 2 big suspensions over the past couple of years. He had indefinitely. He was out of the NFL. He comes back this year. Something happens again with him, and they suspend him once again indefinitely. So Clark is probably the biggest move on the defensive side that you'll see. And D'Angelo Hall, if he has another career year at cornerback, I think that they might be a little bit better defensively.
All right, we want to remind everyone that you're watching the Nation's Capital Sports Show right here on AIM via Comcast 69 and Files 38. I'm Kevin Jeter with Afshin Banab, Vincent Charles, and Stephen Mangas. Let's continue our conversation talking about the 2014 Redskin training camp in Richmond. One thing that I did notice from watching it on TV and from the reports that I received, that the number of fans in participation were kind of like down like 33 or 44%. I wonder if does that have anything to do with the location of the training camp, for it being kind of far for the people that used to go when they were at the other Carlisle Park?
It's possible that that could be a factor, because you're traveling a little farther now, going down to Richmond, and you're dealing with the traffic on 95. Whereas when they were in Carlisle, it was a little bit easier drive up there. But I think last year's record may also have something to do with it, and the fact that the team hasn't been doing real well in the last few seasons.
All right, you guys touched on this already, and I know you guys are not soothsayers, but predictors perhaps. And although it's early on to say anything or make any concrete, guesses, but what do you expect to play out in this particular training camp?
Well, I think you're going to see the big issues right now will still be on the defensive line. Hatcher, he came over from Dallas, but now he's hurt. He had knee surgery, and his return is indefinite at this point. I think that's going to be something that they're going to have to show that they're going to have to deal with the defensive line. Did they shore up the offensive line enough? We shall see about that. That's another issue. So what happens in the trenches, I think, will be very important as you see this training camp moving forward.
All right, Steven, same question.
Yeah, I think this training camp is all about the evaluation process. We're going to start finding out, how much will Lake Seastrunk fit in, as well as the other new weapons, Andre Roberts on the offensive side, and then on the defensive side, as we talked about, Ryan Clark coming here. I will say, actually, I am one of those fans that was sorry to see him go, and I'm glad to have him back on the Redskins. And then the other big thing is the development of players, too. Second-year players, one, David Amerson, he's already been being talked about as he is on a great trajectory right now to be one of the better cornerbacks in the league if he stays on that path, and they expect big improvement from him this year.
All right, thanks, Steven. Vincent.
I think the keys are going to be the defense, number one, and surprisingly, special teams. I think the Redskins have the weapons on offense, and we haven't even begun to talk about the kicking game.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Let's move on to the Washington Wizards, because I was so interested to talk about this, because the Washington Wizards have been wheeling and dealing of significant proportions during the course of this offseason. Paul Pierce, Chris Humphries, they're top loaded with heavy in terms of big guys. And you got to kind of wonder
That's right.
if they, in the process of loading themselves with big guys, did they kind of neglect other areas that perhaps they may need to improve upon, Afshin?
Well, I think that's what the Summer League was about, and I'm not really a huge fan of the Summer League. I mean, to me, it's just like the developmental league during the summer, even though it's not really the DL. But you had Glenn Rice Jr., who is one of those, you could say, up-and-comers, who won the MVP of the Summer League in the NBA this year. But they still have Otto Porter that I think they're going to really put their trust in. They got Paul Pierce, Chris Humphries, and there's another big man that they recently got, DeJuan Blair, who used to play for the San Antonio Spurs, who actually the Wizards wanted a few years ago when they let him slip behind them in the draft. So now they got him. We'll see what they do to shore up the front. But I think that with Beal and Wall becoming the veterans that they are now, that they have a shot at it. Now you got to see what Otto Porter can do. He's a number 3 pick in the draft. He's got to be able to do something. And I think with the emergence of Glenn Rice Jr., then you'll have a good mix of veterans, a good mix of inside players and outside players.
Well, it's an unfortunate thing that Trevor Ariza escaped us. And the bottom line was he went to Houston for the same deal. I couldn't get that one. So I don't know, but Steven.
Yeah, I don't want to speculate on to anything of what his thought process may be with going, but I'm happy to have Paul Pierce here in Washington. I think that's maybe not an upgrade, maybe about even keeled as Paul Pierce gets to the later part of his career, but he's still a very valuable player, and again provides more valuable leadership. Somebody that's won championships, been an all-star numerous times, and a future Hall of Famer. So that's invaluable to have on the team. But as we talk about, I wanted to touch on as well, Afshin, definitely all chips are in for those younger guys as the backup ones. I mean, you're going to see John Wall and Beal are going to be the minute eaters for sure. I think that's why they decided that they might not need to add so many players in the front or in the backcourt there. But Glenn Rice Jr., as you said, winning the Summer League MVP, and Otto Porter was also named to the first team as well.
And I really like the addition of Chris Humphries, because that dude can really turn down a bunch of rebounds, in which the Wizards in the past have not been strong, and that hasn't been their strong suit defensively, Afshin.
No, he's going to definitely help. He's going to spell Nene or Gortat and give him some good minutes. And as far as Ariza, getting back to that point, maybe he left because Texas has no state income. I don't know.
Let's talk a little bit about Gortat, although I did cover that in episode 159 of the Nation's Capital Sports Show podcast. But let's talk a bit about he's been extended to a multi-year deal. Good for the big man. I like the moves in which Ernie Grunfeld has been making in terms of retaining the services of Gortat, your boy, Vincent.
I like that move. Gortat, they had to make that move, okay? They had to replace Ariza, number one. Also, Gortat, he's going to get better. John Wall is going to make him better as they improve their chemistry, and I think he's going to get more shooting opportunities. Definitely, that was a good move. And the signing of Chris Humphries. As you mentioned, Kevin, they have definitely improved their rebounding prowess.
That's right.
A little weak on the backcourt now, but when you talk about why did they go ahead and get rid of that 46th pick, maybe they could have used it for getting some help in the backcourt.
Well, I think the 46th pick, as Afshin alluded to in the last show, 2 shows ago, I'm not putting words in your mouth. I don't want to do that, but we talked about this off air. Well, you're not going to really get much for the 46th pick. And the 46th pick is so low, you can trade away for that, and you're not going to get much of anything, Afshin.
No, you're not going out of the 46th pick. It's you're shooting out of a fish out of a barrel. And plus, they also, by getting rid of that pick, they get a mid-level income of, I think, $5 million by getting rid of Ariza as well, the combination of the two. So that means that they can go over the salary cap if they do want to sign someone before this season begins by $3 million without having to pay that luxury tax. So that does help in that sense.
All right, let's speculate a little bit because the Washington Wizards, it's been kind of speculated or said that they are gunning for Oklahoma's Kevin Durant when he's up for and his option of his contract when he's a free agent supposedly in 2015 or 2016, Afshin.
Yeah, come 2016, Kevin Durant will be an unrestricted free agent, I believe. And, this is his hometown. He grew up in PG County, Maryland, went to Seat Pleasant, and then I think it was Montrose Christian. So he is local to the area. If you heard his MVP speech, he mentioned the D.C. area. I think he even has a tattoo on the back that says something about DMV, much love, or something like that, or Maryland with love. So he has a lot of family here. He loves the D.C. area. He says that it is in every fiber of his being that D.C. will always be his home.
Well, true enough said for Kevin Durant, but it's going to take a lot more for the Wizards to get a caliber pro as Kevin Durant because they're going to have to improve upon their play. They can't finish like they did this particular season. They're going to have to go deeper into the playoffs, Vincent.
They certainly have to do that because if they don't, then these players aren't going to want to come to Washington. So they have to give these players a reason to want to come here by having success. And I did want to mention the signing of Chris Humphries. I think that was great, Kevin, because when we think about Nene, how he gets injured, those signings have been key because Nene, you can't always count on him.
And Ernie Grunfeld has did a good job in the kitchen this time around. I will admit that. He's been basically superhuman, and he's earned a couple of respect points for me.
I agree. He's, it's pretty hot in the kitchen, but he's standing that heat. So
that's right.
He's done a pretty good job this season, and then, of course, in the offseason. So kudos to Ernie Grunfeld, and we'll see about Randy Whitman, how he carries this team over now as the head coach.
That's right. We're going to let you have the last word on that, Afshin. This is the Nation's Capital Sports Show. I'm Kevin Jeter with Afshin Bernard, Steve Mangas, and Vincent Charles. Coming up, we're going to talk more sports, the Washington Nationals and DC United. And you can listen to us on TuneIn.com. This is the Nation's Capital Sports Show, where it's most definitely on. We'll be right back. I'm Kevin Jeter, and welcome back to the Nation's Capital Sports Show, where you can like us on Facebook/TNCSS.com. We have Afshin Bernard, Stephen Mangas, and Vincent Charles. Gentlemen, let's continue our conversation talking about what we enjoy talking about the best and the most, and that is sports here in the DMV. How about those Washington Nationals, Vincent? They're playing pretty good, several games over 500. They are actually exchanging first place leads along with the Atlanta Braves. But so far, so good for the second half of the season.
So far, so right. Yes, Kevin. They're seesawing with the Braves right now, about a game and a half, maybe 2 games up. Their offense is clicking. Pitchers are doing well, starting pitching, relief pitchers. I think maybe the bench needs to be improved.
That's right. Well, funny that you mentioned the pitching. How about Tanner Roark, Afshin?
Tanner Roark.
What a beast.
He is. He's in beast mode, it seems like, every time. He's won 10 games. And, of course, Doug Fister also has won 10 games. Doug Fister is now 10-2 with a 2.7 ERA. And he and Roark are really carrying this baseball team. They've now won 16 of the past 23 games.
And Bryce Harper, Steve, has changed his stance. It's no clown move, dude.
Yeah, he's changed the stance, so maybe a little bit of a switch there before he gets really going. But seems to be working out okay. He'll get it going. But yeah, the pitching is definitely what's been carrying us right now. As we said, Doug Fister and Tanner Roark are interesting. You know, the beginning of the season, not the two guys that you would really suspect to be your top pitchers at the moment. The guys slated to be your fourth, and then Roark was really kind of a surprise entirely. But 10 wins for Fister and only 14 games started is pretty good. Be getting that many decisions.
That's right. And although by the time the show airs, the trade deadline would have came and went. So I'm still going to ask you guys your input in terms of who you think is going to be traded. So that way, if the show when the show airs, whatever these guys say, it will either make them look like a popular scientist or someone that just completely didn't get it. So I'm going to put you on the spot, Afshin. What do you think?
I don't know. Rizzo, I think, is going to listen to a lot of offers, and I believe he's already listened to quite a few offers. I don't know if they're going to make a trade. If they do, the Zimmerman injury right now, which is, as far as his comeback, is indefinite. They don't know when he's going to come back. If they do make a trade, it may be somewhere in the infield. I know Vincent's going to disagree with me on that. I'm not even going to name a player, Vincent. But I think it's possible that they could either make a trade with somebody in the infield, or you might see somewhere down the line where they get another reliever. They may get somebody for the bullpen for the home stretch. That's where I see that they could make a trade. Rizzo will only pull the trigger if he likes what it can do for the Nationals.
Steven.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be any sort of blockbuster move. I don't think any of the larger names, though you may think one of the larger names may be out there.
Maybe.
But we'll see. I don't think they will. And though they have perhaps inquired about replacing Zimmerman at third if that injury is serious enough, but they're kind of being mum on how serious that injury is, though it is a difficult one to gauge. I mean, a hamstring strain, I've been there a few times myself, and you never know when it's going to come back, and it's something that can linger even after the pain subsides. It's going to affect his running ability, and, at third base, a lot of stretching and ranging that needs to be done as well.
But the good thing, in terms of my observation, is that they seem to be top-heavy because they probably won't miss Zimmerman all that much, which is a good thing.
Yeah, and I agree with that, and that's something we've talked about before as well, is that we had this problem of where do you put Zimmerman when he came back to be healthy, and it turned out that he did a little bit of the left field stuff, but then he ended up, going back to his third base spot. I really like Anthony Rendon at third base, so I would like to see him stay there for the Nationals. I mean, he made a great play in the Reds series, barehanded, down the bunt line, to throw out Billy Hamilton, who is, I think, undoubtedly the fastest guy in Major League Baseball in the world.
That's right.
He's got some incredible speed.
That's right. What say you, soothsayer Vincent? What do you think will happen? Will they make any trades? Will they trade your boy Ian Desmond?
Certainly not. And they won't trade Danny Espinosa either. Right now, the Nationals have enough. And they have enough in the minor leagues. I don't think they need to make a deal. I don't think they will make a deal. First of all, you cannot get what you might call a blockbuster player, because to keep him, you're going to have to pay him in future years. And the Nationals are pretty well tied up as far as their payroll. I think earlier in the year, Lerner said that they were about tapped out. Now, in time, think about this, guys. They can make Jason Worth a first baseman. They can make Bryce Harper a first baseman. The Nationals have talented athletes, not only talented baseball players, but they have talented athletes. They have enough in the infield. Zach Walters is doing fine when they called him up. What I would like to see, I was talking about the bench before, this kid, Steven Sousa, he's just like tearing the cover off the ball down in Syracuse. That guy, they need to bring him up. He kind of reminds me of Michael Morse, and the bench does need help, but I can't see a deal being made.
Let's keep something else in mind. Thank you, Vincent. Thank you, guys. Let's keep something else in mind as the season progresses. They're going to come to the point in August where they expand the roster a little bit more. So take into consideration that point. Also, let's talk a little bit about something that you heard through the rumor mill in regards to Ian Desmond turning down a potential kind of sort of mega deal.
It was a big deal. He turned down, I want to say it was a 7, maybe 8-year deal. In the rumor mill, this is the rumor mill, guys, that he turned down an $80 to $90 million deal that the Lerners offered him. Like he turned it down pretty much right away. I don't know what Desmond is looking for. Maybe Vincent's right. I'm sure he may be waiting till the season is over, and I can understand that. But you know, possibly a little bit of in the presser to say that would have been sound judgment on his part, because you got people like Harper and Strasburg. Rendon's contract will come up soon. You know, sooner before you know it. And you have to deal with all these contracts that are going to be coming up. Desmond is not the only player on this team. And what I will say about Desmond is I think he's one of the best offensive players on this team, and I think he's one of the most charitable players on this team. And it'd be great to keep him, but you want to make sure you don't have that on the back burner right now, and you want to get that deal done as quickly as possible if you really think he's your guy.
All right, Steven, we're going to let you have the last word on this.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Sheen there. I would like to see Desmond stay around. As you mentioned before we got on, too, you really kind of feel that if he does things right, he could be a face of the franchise type player and a face for DC Athletics entirely. You know, but he could improve the fielding a little bit, perhaps.
Yes,
get rid of some errors. and I mean, that's your question mark right now on him, and that's reasonably so. But definitely offensively, as far as any shortstops in the league go, I mean, he's way up there.
All right, well, thank you very much. You can email us at info@tncss.net. Let's move our attention to talking about a team that we haven't talked about in a while, and that is DC United.
Indeed.
3 months ago, we talked about them, and then we talked about them sparingly since then because they were doing bad. But all of a sudden, Sheen, they're winning, quote unquote, Charlie Sheen.
Yeah. Sheen and Charlie Sheen, right? But they're not only winning. Imagine back in April when we started talking about them, they did not win a game in April.
No.
And here they are in second place at 10-5-4, just a few points behind Sporting KC. And they have done an absolutely wonderful job. Ben Olsen has got these guys going. You know, Chris Rolfe is now in there. He's been a starter. Eddie Johnson's all of a sudden scoring. Boswell is playing well as a midfielder. This team is really doing well. They've won their last 3 road games, which they haven't done that in years.
Yeah.
They haven't done that in years.
What do you attribute this turnaround to?
Oh, Ben Olsen, you know, I'm in the tank for him. I've told you that before, Kevin. And I think that they finally are starting to listen to him. And not only are they listening to him, but he's come up with a way that he's devised a scheme for them that works for them. He's not trying to make them fit into his scheme. He's finding a scheme that works for those guys. And I think that's why they're successful this year. And also, they're probably underrated. A lot of people didn't think they'd do this.
And it's tantamount in terms of sports. And you and I sat down and talk about this. You make if you're a coach, you fit your scheme to match your players' strengths and weaknesses.
Right.
Steven.
Yeah, and I think the biggest key for him, as wins and losses, has been defense. Has been very strong for him as well. Conceded, I believe, the 3rd fewest in the MLS this year, and attributing that they've got that great 9-goal differential at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been their strong suit, and there's been rumor of whether or not they'll be looking to bring in even more defense and bolster it up. I can't remember the player's name, but I believe a Korean player. Correct me. Anyone else know?
Yeah, I don't know his name. He's from Asia.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
There's an Asian player.
And Vincent.
They seem to have come out of nowhere from what I was expecting at the beginning of the year. I didn't expect a very good year out of these guys. But
Yeah, they surprised all of us here, you know.
yes, they did. It seems like the chemistry is coming together now, and Rolfe has definitely been a great acquisition. Fabian Espindola, Luis Silva, although he's hurt right now, Espindola. There was a point where Silva scored 5 goals in 5 games.
Yeah.
That's right.
They're coming around, and Bill Hamid, he has made the All-Star team.
Yeah.
23 years old. And Ben Olsen, he's got big dreams for this kid. He sees this kid playing on the U.S. national team, possibly in the World Cup someday.
Yeah, we hope that we hope that DC United continues on to do good things, and who knows, it could be the playoffs. Well, especially the way the MLS is set up. I think anyone, there's a bright hope for them if they continue to do good to make the playoffs. Well, thank you very much, Vincent. Thank you very much, Stephen and Afshin. I want to put this one in there real quick. Congratulations to the 2014 National Baseball Hall of Fame and Museum inductees: Bobby Cox, Grant Maddux, Tom Glavine, Frank Thomas, the Big Hurt, Tony La Russa, and Joe Torre. I caught a little bit of that today, watched the ceremonies, and then I had to come in here, but it's a good thing. And I have a few announcements before we make way out of here. Our email address is info@tncss.net. You can check out the Nation's Capital Sports Show via AIM on Comcast 69 and Files 38. We're on Sundays at 3 p.m., Monday at 9:30 a.m., and Friday at 9:30 p.m. And the most important announcement that I'm going to make today, well, Afshin has an important announcement too. Happy birthday to Steve Mangus.
Yes. Thank you.
Chris Jerry. Chris is not here. And owe you a couple beers, young man. And where would we be, Afshin, without our hard-working group of volunteers and folks here at AIM?
Well, we wouldn't be here.
That's right.
So Devin is off.
That's right.
Kevin Sampson's away.
That's right.
So in comes the reliable Patrick McCleary. He is producing tonight. So congratulations to Patrick. Our director, LJ Lacoma.
right.
Technical director, Janessa Jackson. Our graphics, Misty Sweet. Audio is, of course, the ever so reliable Ken Briley. And our camera ops, Doa Noor, Bill Calder, and Bill Weisner. And we thank each and every one of you for letting us do this, and it's great to work with you guys.
It's showing up. It's a pleasure doing the show, and I speak on behalf of Afshin Banab, Vincent Charles, Stephen Mangas, and Chris Jerry, who's here with us in spirit. This is the Nation's Capital Sports Show. You can catch us on tunein.com. This, once again, is the Nation's Capital Sports Show. Have a great sporting day, as well as a great sporting week. Take care.